Hello parents, caregivers, friends, neighbours, welcome. I am Glenda Shupinyaneng, the Executive Director of the South African Education Project. Every child deserves a fair start. Research has shown us that quality early learning programs build cognitive skills, social, emotional foundations children need to succeed in grade R and in primary school. Ensuring that children start learning early helps level the playing field. Let's give every child an equal opportunity to thrive. Welcome back, parents. This is our second episode, Exploring Everything ECD. I have my good friend here, Zena, that is going to share with us on ECD implications and what does it mean to choose the right ECD. For us parents, this is for all parents that have got children that are supposed to be attending a creche. So it doesn't matter whether you're calling it a creche, an ECD center, you're calling it an early childhood development program, but we want our children at this level to be in a program that is conducive for their learning. Besides looking at where should I place my child, this is something that all parents grapple upon. Zena, please first tell me who you are, where you're coming from, and why should our parents listen to you? I know you have been in the sector, good friend. I did tell you that I've got many friends. She's one of them that understands ECD. Please tell us, who are you? Why should we listen to you?
Thank you, Glenda. So I'm Zena, and I work for the Center for Early Childhood Development. I have a background in social work, and I worked for a bit in child protection. So my approach to ECD is also grounded in my experience of child protection, which in my experience of working for a child protection organization was that I often was working very reactively or like in crisis mode. So I often came in when the problem was already there, instead of coming in for a number of reasons before something happened. So my approach to ECD is one that is, I view it as something that is very preventative or can be very preventative in many ways. I would advise parents to go watch the first episode so that they also understand what ECD is as a concept, or as a concept in that it's a stage of development. It's not a destination. So that's where I come from. I've been in the sector for about just over 3 years, going on 4 years now, so not that long. But like I said, I see it as something very transformative and something that can be quite preventative if we use the opportunities and we use the resources that we have in the country.
And to be honest, I value the role that people that are coming from a social work background working in the ECD sector. Our children at this age are quite vulnerable, and having stakeholders that support the ECD sector, understanding child protection, being trauma informed, because the communities that we're working in, they're quite volatile. And it requires one to have an understanding of what is needed at this level for our children. Yes, we prioritize principals and practitioners, but at SAEP we very much believe in the child. So we take a child approach to supporting the centers. So you as a programs manager at CECD, you look at many things within the centers in your own approach of working. But if you were to tell our parents what is important, yes, the proximity of the center for you is important, where you live, and the accessibility for you and your child. The cost implications, because you need to be able to afford it. But what else can our parents look at when they are saying, I want to place my child in the center?
So it's like I mentioned earlier, it's about understanding that ECD centers or any kind of ECD program is not just about childcare or daycare. So again, parents, go watch the first episode to understand what happens in the first 5 years when your child is growing. So parents need to understand what ECD is, or that ECD centers don't just offer a place for you to drop off your child when you go to work. It's about, you want to know that when I put my child in this particular ECD center, there will be learning happening. So you want to see that there are attentive teachers, present teachers, that children are not left unsupervised. You want to make sure that it's a safe environment. So the physical infrastructure of the facility or the ECD center also needs to assure you that your child will be safe there for the day. So things like, is there a fence around the facility? Is there a gate? Who are the people who work there? Are the people cleared against the child protection register to actually work with children? So that's also something you need to ask when you are finding an ECD center, a suitable ECD center for your child. You want to know that there are resources, or that there's equipment that your child will be exposed to, that they'll be able to use during the day. So toys, educational toys, balls, blocks, puzzles, crayons, dolls, pretend play or toys, a lot of things like that. That's the kind of thing you want to be sure that there exists at an ECD center before you enroll your child. So first, understanding that ECD is not just childcare or daycare, but there's a lot of learning that should be happening at an ECD center.
I always advise parents to say, sometimes maybe you are at home, you did not go to work. For those parents that do work, visit your child's center on a random Tuesday during the day to perhaps find out, is there any learning happening? You know, you don't want your child just to be sleeping all day. What else happens? Because at that age, they don't really tell you word for word what is it that they did the whole day being at a center, you know? And it has become because we deal with parents as well, it has become so tricky for parents. How do we ask the principal when we are registering our children, if this center is registered, what is the status? Because they don't paste their certificates on the wall. How do I know as a parent that this is a qualified teacher? Perhaps just help us. How can the parents navigate or ask these questions to the principal, whether are these teachers qualified? Is this school registered? Is there a way for them to check?
So those are very important questions that you should ask before enrolling your child. What I find in the work I do is that often there's a complaint about an ECD center from a parent, and the first thing they say is that the center was not registered. But my question is always, did you ask before you enroll your child? That's the one question. The other question is, do you understand what registration is? And do you understand the complexities around the registration process and the requirements and so on? So some advice to parents from me would also be to be a bit understanding around what registration entails. Maybe do your own homework and find out what is registration about. How does an ECD center go about getting registered? What are the complications or the challenges around that? And be a bit empathetic because there are a lot of challenges around that. In the Western Cape, we have social service organizations like ourselves that work directly with the ECD centers. So if you're in the Western Cape, it's a bit, you're in a bit more of an advantaged position where you can call up the organization that works in the area where the center is that you're looking at and find out from them if the facility is registered. That is if the principal is not willing to share that information. It shouldn't be a big deal for them to share if they are registered or not, though. But in a case where the principal is not able or willing to share that information, definitely call up the social service organization if you're in the Western Cape and find out. Or even the Western Cape Education Department should be able to advise if a center is registered or not. But yes, a very important question to ask before you enroll your child.
For a parent that has a child, perhaps the child is 2 years old, not really giving full sentences. How can a parent say that my child feels safe in the center, is secured, is emotionally supported, there's learning taking place? What do you think would be the signs for the parent to say, you know what, this is a keeper of a center that I can let my child be here for the next 3 or 4 years? I see that the school is working. What are the signs can a parent look out for?
Something that I always find very encouraging is how ECD centers or how teachers communicate with parents, how they communicate, but also how frequently they communicate. Something I like to see is when I'm at an ECD center and the teacher can show me the WhatsApp group where she tells the parents what she's focusing on with the children for that week, or she can show me the messages that she's had with specific parents on how the behavior was throughout the day, things that she noticed about the child's mood maybe, whether the child was eating or not, if the child was sleeping or not during the day. So communication or the general relationship between the parent and the teacher is very important. As a parent, you also want to foster a good relationship with the school. So it's a partnership between the parents and the ECD centers to make sure that you give the child a good start. So building a good relationship with the teachers and the principal is very important. Something that I was recently just reminded of when we're talking about how do you know if a child feels safe or secure or is learning, is how they play. How they play by themselves, how they play with others, with other children, how they use the toys that they're playing with. So, for example, when they are playing in the fantasy area with pretend kitchen equipment or food and things like that, are they putting the things in their mouths? You know what I mean? Do they understand that others also have to play with this? So I can't really eat this. This is just a pretend banana or sausage or whatever. How are they treating the toys that they are playing with? Are they able to look after the toys? That's a very good sign of how they are learning or what they are learning. Then also listening to the conversations children have when they play. What are the stories they make up when they are pretending?
Interesting stories that come out there.
So what are the stories they make up when they're playing? What are the conversations they're having with each other? So as a teacher or as a parent, you also want to listen out for any red flags. What are some of the things that they might be saying that are a bit off, or they make you sit up and pay attention? How children play, very important to listen out for the conversations they have, and also how they treat the toys and how they share the toys with other children. Another thing that I like to see or that I look out for when I visit ECD centers is how confident are the children to come up to you or the teacher. So what is the interaction between the children and the teacher? Are they confident? Do they feel comfortable with the teacher? Are they participating in the routines? So when it's time for breakfast, are they all sitting down, having their porridge or whatever they eat for breakfast? When it's time for toilet routine, are they all lining up? Or is there maybe one that's a bit, out there? When teachers giving an instruction, Are they following the instruction? Are they able to follow instruction? When teacher says, okay, we're all going to quiet down now, are they all, are they able to follow an instruction? Yes. So that's some things that you want to look out for as a parent to see whether your child is learning, is feeling safe and secure, and is being nurtured at an ECD center.
Thank you, Zena. This is such an important observation, even on your side, when you are coming into an ECD. Perhaps you are there to do something else, to render support to the center, but as well you casting an eye, you're observing how these children are interacting, or interacting also with the teacher, with other kids. That's where it helps. Having also a social work background and you're able to observe. I often say when we've got parental workshops that are run by our social worker and part-time educational psychologist, where they do child protection and trauma-informed. So once the practitioner understand how to spot a child in crisis mode, that child plays it out in pre-play. How they interact with another child will tell you what is going on at home. If that child is secure within themselves and all is going well, that child is going to play quite well with other kids, will be much more sociable. But the minute something is wrong, you as the teacher, you will see it, the child playing it out with other kids and saying stuff out of character. Because as the teacher, you are sitting with these children for 8 hours a day, some even more hours. And you are able to say, oh, I know Mbali acts this way, but what is this character that is now acting up? You are, as now the teacher is able to say, Mommy, when they're coming to fetch the child, Mbali was acting in a certain way. Is there perhaps something that I should know about in order to accommodate your child? Or is there a discussion that needs to happen? And perhaps that school reaches out to a social worker like yourselves to support that parent or that school in that crisis mode.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
That's a very good point. Yeah. So the relationship between the parents and the teachers, very, very important, because ultimately it's about that child. It's about providing a nurturing, a caring environment so that the child, as they grow up, they're able to learn, they're able to thrive.
What we are emphasizing here, parents, let's give our children a fair start. Thank you to my friend Zena that came to say, let's have this chat. Let's empower our parents. With this conversation, we are hoping that you are going to give us more questions to demystify for you, break it down, and perhaps have more friends to have the conversations to answer you. So from us, thank you for listening. We will get you in the next episode.